Well, hello there. Glad you can make it. We've almost finished our book. I can't believe it. Have you been enjoying listening to these tales? Um, Tonight we're going to read a fairy tale about a man named John Marshall. He was one of our founding fathers. Let's see what fable the fairy tale fable book has to say about him. John Marshall. He was known as the Great Chief Justice. He was born on September 24th of 1755 and he died July 6th of 1835. John Marshall. He was like a frontier marshal, and the Supreme Court was his frontier. Before Marshall, the full meaning and power of the Supreme Court had yet to be discovered. Oh, thank God he came along. Yes, it was the highest court in the land and the most important part of the judicial branch of the American's government. But no one much knew what that meant. Well, partner, under Marshall's rule as Chief Justice, the Supreme Court came to have as much power as the President and Congress. Under Marshall, the federal court system became the branch of government that has the final word on what the Constitution means. It became the final word on what was and wasn't constitutional. This new power didn't sit too well with Marshall's cousin, President Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson thought that judges shouldn't have so much power. Marshall thought that neither Jefferson nor any president had the right to tell the Supreme Court what to do. You can't tell me what to do. I'm bigger than you. My daddy can beat your daddy at cricket. It was a regular showdown. Jefferson thought the states should mainly govern themselves, but Marshall made sure that the state laws did not break the Supreme Court laws in the land, the Constitution. And he did this for over 30 years, longer than any other Supreme Court justice, because of his career as a judge, starting only in 1801 after the founding period. He is often left off the founding fathers list. But John Marshall brought law and order to the country that he helped to found. Hi-ya! It says. Famous quotes. The people made the Constitution, and the people can unmake it. It is the creature of their own will and lives only by their will. It's the creature of their own will and lives only by their will, he says. It is empathetically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. So he thinks that the Justice Department should make the law. That's what it is. I wonder if he was a lawyer. Let's find out. How tall was he? John Marshall was 6 feet tall, more or less. How much did he weigh? John Marshall was a slender man. His political leaning towards the Constitution. His jobs held. Oh, I found another one. Lawyer. A lawyer. A member of Virginia House of Delegates. Delegate to Constitutional Convention. Member of the House of Representatives. 4th Secretary of State. 4th Supreme Court Chief Justice. How many years did he serve in the Continental Army? 5. Education, he was homeschooled, and then the College of William and Mary. Did he master any languages? Yes, English and Latin. What was his feelings on France? He had mixed feelings. He hated the government, but he loved the culture. Was he wealthy? Yes, quite wealthy. What was his nickname? The Great Chief Justice. He was a Federalist by his political party. He lived in Richmond, Virginia. He had another place in Washington, D.C. He owned more than 200,000 acres of land. He had 10 human slaves at one point, and his position on slavery, he thought slaves should be freed and then sent to Africa. A random fact. The day of Marshal's funeral, the Liberty Bell was rung in his honor. It then suddenly cracked, never to be rung again. Wonder what that means. Wasn't this the guy? The Liberty Bell of Justice. And this guy has the idea of creating the justice system as it stands, to where all the criminals get away with it, or some don't, depending on what side of the street you're on. Interesting. I'm just noticing a pattern. I can't help it. I notice things like this. Let's see. And that's remember our stream we did on the Liberty Bell? Did you watch that? Did you join in? Did you learn things? I did. Fascinating. What was his religious faith, you ask? He was a Episcopalian. He was a happy. His achievements. Well, he had a few. He transformed the Supreme Court's power. He presided over more than 1,000 Supreme Court decisions, so he certainly liked having a say. The final say, even. The final word. He helped negotiate end to a quasi-war with France as Secretary of State. And what was his opinion on the Boston Tea Party? He believed it was necessary to bring about money, I'm sure. Anyway, that is the last of our founding fathers. However, there is a little Q&A in the back of the book, so I'm going to read that tomorrow night. That will conclude. So come back one more time to finish the series with me. We have one more fairy tale to read back here. Paul Bunyan of sorts. We're going to get to know them intimately. Come back for another interview with our founding fathers. It's like not Bill and Ted. It's more like Joni and the Rotten Kingdom. I don't know. Stupid things you think of. Good night.